The play opens in London at Algernon's house in the drawing room.
Did you hear what I was playing, Lynn?
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
Well, I'm sorry for that, for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anybody can play accurately. But I play with wonderful expression. By the way, have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Aunt Augusta?
Yes, sir.
That will do then. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Earnest Worthing.
How are you, my dear Earnest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, IG. Why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Who's coming to tea?
Merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
Oh, how perfectly delightful.
That is all very well. But I'm afraid she won't quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. Almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
Algie, I am in love with Gwendolyn. I have come up to town expressly to propose to her.
Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They've been specially ordered for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you have been eating them all the time.
She's my aunt. Help yourself to some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn seems to be devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is too.
My dear fellow, you need not eat it as if you were going to eat it all. You behave as if you were married to her already. You're not married to her, and I don't think you ever will be.
What on earth do you say that?
I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my first cousin. And before I let you marry her, you're going to have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What do you mean, Algie, by Cecily? I don't know anyone of the name of Cecily.
Oh, but in that case, then... Please bring me the card case Mr. Worthing left the last time he dined here.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say you have had my case all this time?
That will do then. Thank you. Well, now that I look at the inscription inside, I find that the thing isn't yours after all.
Well, of course it's mine. You've seen me within 100 times. I want my case back.
It is yours, but it seems to be a present of some sort from somebody of the name of Cecily. You said you don't know anybody of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is. Just give it back to me.
But why does she pronounce her Little Cecily? From Little Cecily with the fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. That is a matter that surely an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself. You seem to think that every aunt should be exactly like your aunt. That's absurd. Just give me back my case.
Well, there's no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt. But why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, should call her own nephew or uncle? From Little Cecily with the fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. This is quite absurd. Besides, your name is Earnest, not Jack.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
You always told me your name was Earnest. I introduced you to everybody as Earnest. You answer to the name of Earnest. You look as if your name was Earnest. You're the most earnest looking person I've seen. It's on one of your cards. Earnest Worthing, B4, the Albany.
Well, it's Ernest in town and Jack in the country. And that case was given to me in the country.
Well, that still doesn't account for the fact that your small aunt Cecily calls you an uncle. Come on, old boy. You're much better to have the whole thing out at once. May I mention, I've always suspected you of being a secret and confirmed Bunburyist.
Bunburyist? What do you mean by a Bunburyist?
Well, I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you tell me why you're Earnest in town and Jack in the country.
Oh, produce my case first.
There you go. Produce your explanation.
Algie, as you know, the late Mr. Thomas Cardew adopted me when I was a little boy. After he died, I was made the guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew, who lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prison.
But why are you Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
Well, in order to get up to town as often as I want, I have always pretended to have a younger brother of the name of Earnest, who gets into the most dreadful scrapes.
What you really are is a Bunburyist. It's quite right in saying you're a Bunburyist. You are one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
My dear fellow, you invented a very useful younger brother called Earnest so that you can go down to the country whenever you choose. I, on the other hand, have invented a very useful, permanent invalid called Bunbury so that I can go down to the country whenever I want. Ah, that was beyond Augusta. Now, if I get her out of the way for 10 minutes so that you can propose to Gwendolyn, may I dine with you tonight?
I suppose so if you want to.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you're behaving very well.
I'm very well, Aunt Augusta.
That's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you're smart.
I am always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry we're a little late, Algernon. And now we'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches that you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you come and sit here, Gwendolyn?
Thanks, Mama. I'm comfortable where I am.
Len! Where are the cucumber sandwiches? I had them specially ordered for Aunt Augusta.
Sir, there were no cucumbers in the market, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir, not even for ready money.
Oh, that will do then. Thank you. I'm sorry, Aunt Augusta.
It's all right, Algernon.
Well, I'm afraid I won't be able to dine with you tonight. I've received a telegram from town saying that my poor friend Bunbury is dreadfully ill. They seem to think I should be with him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury. He's a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it's high time that Mr. Bunbury decided whether he was going to live or die. This shilly-shallying with a question is absurd. Ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday, because I rely on you to arrange my music for me.
I'll speak to him, Aunt Augusta. If he's still conscious, I think he should be alright by Saturday. Now, if you'd step in the room with me, I'll show you the music program I've laid out for you.
Thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mama.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else. And that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mama has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I have often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I've admired you more than any woman I ever met since I met you.
Yes, I am well aware of the fact. And I often wish that, in public at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. To me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. You see, Mr. Worthing, it has always been my ideal to love someone of the name of Earnest. It is a name that inspires absolute confidence. When Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolyn?
Passionately.
Oh, you don't know how happy you made me. But do you really mean to say you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Earnest?
But your name is Earnest.
Yes, I know it is. But supposing if it was something else, do you still mean to say you couldn't love me then? I don't much care about the name of Earnest. I think that name doesn't suit me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Gwendolyn, I think there are other much nicer names. I think Jack. Jack, for instance, a charming name.
Jack? No, there is very little music in the name Jack, if any at all indeed. It is no thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. And I pity any woman who is married to a man called Jack.
Gwendolyn, I must get christened at once. I mean, we should get married at once. There's no time to be lost. Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course I will.
Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from the semi-recumbent posture. It is at most indecorous.
Mama, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing was not quite finished yet.
Finish what, may I ask?
I am engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Pardon me, you're not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I, or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. And now, Mr. Worthing, I have some questions to put to you. While I'm making these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mama!
In the carriage! You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
No thanks. I prefer standing.
How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at.